Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Chortle Cast. I'm Jake, this is Steven, and before we start the show, we wanted to have a sit-down conversation, kind of a refresh, a realignment, if you will. We've had a lot of new subscribers coming in. We have a lot of new faces, people who probably, this may be one of the first pieces of content you're watching from us. And so we wanted to just kind of take this moment to just reintroduce ourselves, reintroduce what this channel and podcast is about, so that you can come in and say, that's who these guys are. And then if you've been
classic Jake, classic Steven,
when you say
it's our hope that by the end of this, you'll be able to say that with confidence.
With confidence. What does that mean? So to start off, we started this channel. Steven and I together have, well, not even together, we both have 20 plus years experience playing video games, right? Steven worked at a GameStop once, but other than that, we have little to no game industry experience. We are fans of video games who have been playing video games and following video games for over 20 years at this point. So we are at our heart two guys who just love video games. All right.
Yep. We're consumers just like you guys.
I started this channel with my friend Brody because he and I loved playing games together. Said, hey, we need to put a camera on this. Steven kind of came in the mix of that. Brody's not a full part of the channel now. It's just me and Steven. But the same heart is there. We're guys that love to play games. We're playing games, meeting new people, laughing with people, because we're also idiots who are playing games. And so we do a lot of funny, stupid stuff. But at the heart, we are consumers like you. We're not gaming insiders or anything like that. So we love to talk about games. We like to talk about game news. That's why we started the podcast specifically. I think we can all relate that when there's stuff happening, like talking about the PS5 being announced and all that sort of stuff, you get your buddies and you're like, hey man, did you hear? What console are you getting? Like there's so many conversations to be had around what's happening in video games. And that's what this podcast is. All right. It is us hanging out, talking about stuff that's going on in the news. So that's what we are at the core.
Yeah. And at any point in our conversation, we present the news. Like, hey, this is what happened this week. This company said that, or they released this. But if we're ever saying something as fact, we will cite our source.
Right.
Like we will say, from IGN, this is what they posted. Other than that, it's pretty much just us talking, talking about our opinions. And
normally we set up like, all right, this is what it is. I'm reading from IGN, and then we talk through what happened.
Right.
As just this is what happened, not even an opinion. Then we dive in. So normally I say, I'm like, Steven, what do you think about this? And we go from there.
We normally segue pretty
smoothly,
starkly into, hey, Steven, what do you think? And then I complain for half an hour. And then it always turns into how Ubisoft is killing video games. It's a whole thing.
Classic Steven.
There you go. And in this, you may hear us talking and be like, oh my gosh, these guys are such like PlayStation fanboys or something like that. And that's true. While everybody, like all consumers, we have our bias. Our bias, just to make an understanding here, because we are talking PlayStation today. That is like pretty much all we're talking today. But we do cover Xbox stuff.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we are not pro PlayStation, anti Xbox. Our bias lies in the fact that we just value the experience of individual games over things like the best hardware or finding the best value, stuff like that. So if like we do play PlayStation primarily, but if Xbox had the exclusive games that we as consumers were interested in, we'd be Xbox people. So we are always looking to be shown both sides.
And beyond that, we, like, as Steven already just said, we play PlayStation a lot, but Steven plays a lot of PC games. And beyond that, Steven plays a lot of Xbox games on the PC.
Proud subscriber to Games Pass, best deal in gaming right now.
Absolutely.
I love it.
So we really, I mean, I would say we lean PlayStation, but that's just because that's kind of been our home console for so long.
Right.
But we absolutely, talk about and keep up with what's going on everywhere else. So
yeah, I've been Xbox in the past.
I have as well.
Switched to.
I bought
my first PlayStation
the Xbox
was
One for Scalebound, and they took it away from me. All right, and I don't know that I'll ever forgive them for that, but. I just on the last podcast I talked about how I'm thinking about getting an S. I'm fighting the urge because I don't need to spend this much money right now. But it's a thought, Again, we're consumer.
Yeah, I was huge on the Xbox 360. That's where most of my gaming in high school happened. I switched to PlayStation on the PS4 just because that's where all my friends were going because the Xbox One announcement was kind of a disaster,
right?
And they've been trying to fix it ever since. But the fact is, we both play games that we're interested in. It does not matter what system they land on. I play a lot of PC with my friends. I play PlayStation because that's where they are. But if there is an experience that interests me in the gaming scene, and regardless of Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, wherever it lands, I'm into that. I am going to be there and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to brag about it because that's what I get excited about is the individual experiences that you can find through different games. So I hope that we never come across in such a way to where anyone who is Xbox shows up here and they're just like, I don't want to hear what these guys have to say. They're just PlayStation fanboys. We're really not. We find the value in gaming in general. It's just that we play on PlayStation because that's what Jake's had. That's what I mean. I've been on the PlayStation 4 generation, and our friends are there too. But there's a Microsoft game out there that interests one of us.
Sea of Thieves. We did
Sea of Thieves.
Sea of Thieves, and I still would play Sea of Thieves if they had private servers. The day they announced private servers, I will probably buy an S right then.
It is on Games Pass for PC now.
I know.
Sea of Thieves is.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Anyway, just all this to say, we're consumers. We're guys like you watching for the most part, and we're just here talking, having fun. We don't claim to be professionals by any stretch of the imagination. We don't claim to
I talk with a lot of confidence in my opinions, but I absolutely acknowledge they're my opinions.
Exactly.
And I know I can talk in such a way to where I haven't been told this, but I could totally, like, if anyone ever came up to me and was like, Steven, you do this, I'd be like, okay. Yeah.
Steven and I both have a lot of confidence, and we just talk and do, which is another reason why we started this, because it's just like, we could do this. Anyway, it's all fun. We're all here to have fun, and we want to have a conversation. So if you disagree with us, put it in the comments. All we ask is that you at least kind of understand who we are and don't just start making assumptions. That's
not a dialogue,
right?
We want dialogue. We want to give you guys the same courtesy that we hope you're giving us in hearing us out, and so that we can hear you guys out. And I personally love when someone comes at me with their opinions, good or bad, as long as like I was given the opportunity to be heard. Like we do game reviews here sometimes, and our biggest one was for Star Wars: The Force Unleashed, because it's like older games. It's called Forward Compatible. It's a game. Gosh, we're just introducing the whole channel. But it's Forward Compatible it's a game that I haven't played in at least 5 years. I play it again and then I review it to see if it's still good. So I did Force Unleashed, and a lot of people disagreed. But in the comments they said, I don't really agree with this video. I enjoyed the video, but here's why I disagree. And they would tell me like individual opinions. And even though I still disagreed with their opinions, that is the greatest compliment you can give me is showing me like, hey, I cared enough to actually hear you out completely. I still disagree with you, but here's taking the time to give me those reasons. I value conversation so much, and I would love to hear anything you guys have to say, as long as it's actual conversation and not just, hey, I watched the first 5 minutes, I hate you.
And speaking, so all that to say, we want to have that conversation, and most importantly, we want to just have fun talking about video games. So in that spirit, we're going to start the actual show, and it's going to look very different than it does right now. So, hey everybody, welcome back to Trollcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, the Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the man who may survive for 7 days.
Where'd my body go?
Steven.
Where am I?
And if you are only an audio listener and you just listened to me and Steven have a very serious conversation, you're wondering what the heck just happened. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you are also probably equally confused. We had a bit a few weeks ago where Steven, if you don't know, fun behind the scenes fact, Steven is usually playing a game anyway when we're doing the podcast.
I started that recently and I just didn't stop.
He just didn't stop. He was like, this is a great time. So we made the joke that we should do a podcast where we both just have whatever game we're playing running behind us. And just, we never, we just don't, you're not going to hear the game audio, but we're both going to be playing completely different things behind us. And really, it doesn't matter what's happening behind us. this is what we're doing while we're doing the podcast. So anyway, it's a fun bit. We're doing it this week. Probably not going to be a consistent thing, but we just wanted to do it for fun 1 week. So I am playing Super Mario Sunshine on my Switch. That's what I'm doing. That's all the action you're going to see behind me. I just unlocked Yoshi, so I'm very excited about that. And that's what I'm going to be doing. Steven, what are you playing behind?
I really had a hard time deciding what I wanted to force you guys to watch me play. So many roguelikes that I could have done.
Right.
But they all require the music. Like, they don't require the music, but they're heightened by music.
Right.
So I'm playing 7 Days to Die because this is an easy game because the Blood Moon is not happening anytime soon. This is an easy game for me to just chill, walk around, pick some flowers, kill some zombies, eat some honey,
just have a good time.
Have a time. We'll see if it's good or not.
I also love, Steven gave me options. He was like, what do you want me to play? I could play this, I could play that. And I just love how either option, it was going to be such a harsh contrast to what I was doing that it just really was a good deal either way. Oh no, I just killed Yoshi. Oh well, that happens sometimes.
How did you manage to kill something in yours before I managed to kill something in mine?
Yoshi can't swim in this continuum for whatever reason, and I really botched a jump is all that happened.
Meanwhile, come watch me sort pills, because that's what I'm currently doing. I am sorting pills.
Steven's got a thing about pills. A minute ago, he was like, I got to go check on my dog Minnie because she might be eating pills or something, and I was very
I
concerned
said
and
to make
confused.
sure she's not eating no pills, because
understand.
you don't want a dog to eat pills.
Eating no pills, right?
They would die eating no pills. They die. She's getting spayed on Tuesday. Poor thing. She's gonna have a hard week.
She is really.
But it's time. She's been kind of the neighborhood thought this week as she's been barking because she's she might be in heat, and so she's just kind of like telling all the other the boy dogs that she's open for business. But that's not okay.
Wow.
Yeah, she's not
okay.
So we're getting that fixed.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not here to talk about dogs getting fixed because this is Chortlecast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, TV shows, movies, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We've got a great show for you this week. We are going to talk all about PS5. We finally have release date. We have pricing. We have some fun new announcements to talk about. That is going to be the heart of the show. We may branch off to some other things as things come up, but that is what we're talking about today. We were talking about Sony's announcement and all that good stuff. So we're going to jump right into it. I believe it was Wednesday, and I'm reading from IGN for all of my information today. The article I'm reading was written by Felicia Miranda.
The link will be cited in APA format in the video description. That is not true. I just had to do everything in APA format in college, and I'm still salty about it.
I did too, and I couldn't tell you, Steven, the first rule about AP style. Couldn't tell you the first thing.
The first rule is probably always cite your sources. But
that is a source. That is a thing. But I don't think that's an AP only specific thing. But whatever.
Oh God, sorry, I fell into my bed of spikes in my house.
I knew this kind of thing would happen. So,
Yep.
we're gonna dive right into it. So, Sony on Wednesday they had their they didn't really. This isn't a state of play anymore. They're doing their whole PS5 showcase. That's what they're calling it. Anyway, they did the second one of these. Of course, Xbox announced their release date and price last week. The immediate thought, in fact, there was a joke on Twitter, several tweets saying like, "Oh, well, we ought to hear something from Sony by tomorrow." You know, they took the time, they gave Xbox their moment. Now we're here. So I'm just going to kind of go through. I'm going to go through like we normally do with these. I'm going to go through announcements, or well, tell you what. Before we just go through the show, let's get to the heart of it. Right? They announced release date and price. Release date, November 12th. So 2 days after the Xbox Series X and Series S will be releasing.
That's nice.
It's about what we expected. Yeah, I'm honestly shocked that they're happening on the same week. I kind of thought Sony would be a week behind, but I'm glad to know we'll have both of those systems by the end of that week. Hopefully, if pre-orders all get where they need to go. But let's talk about pricing. So, PlayStation 5 with the disc version is $499.99, so $500. Yep. And the discless all digital edition is $399.99 or $400. Let's just start there before we go through the rest of what's happening. Steven, what do you think of those prices?
Honestly, they're exactly what I expected.
Mm-hmm. I'm honestly shocked that the digital version is that cheap. I was expecting
that's
like
true.
a $50 drop.
Yeah, I expected a $50 drop as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I did expect the 500 mark. That didn't surprise me.
Right.
But
well, especially when Xbox had given their $500 price point for their main system.
Yeah. I think it's fair, honestly. If I remember right, the system has a terabyte hard drive, right?
I don't think it's quite a terabyte. It's like a weird 850.
Yeah, it's split between
something.
Like a solid state and then it's something weird.
Yeah.
I remember being a little bit disappointed in the storage size because these games are going to be freaking huge.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a bummer, but at the end of the day, it's a next gen system.
At the end of the day, you're going to end up buying a hard drive for it anyway. I mean, if they gave you 2 terabytes, there's going to hit a point where you have to delete something.
I could have managed with 2 terabytes.
You think?
I think so. Like obviously there would hit a point to where I would have to download things, but because I'm on 1 terabyte right now and I don't have an external. I need one, but I don't have one.
Right.
So 2 terabytes would have probably done the trick for me. I would have been pleased with that. But now it's just like, I'm definitely going to have to get an external, which is fine. It needed to happen anyway. So
see, I've gone all digital, this generation and have tried to, download everything just to, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I've tried to go all digital so that I could, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I've been going all digital, basically. I've been going all digital. So I've been used. So I'm so used to having an external hard drive that's like 4 or 5 terabytes that I'm just not. That's a non-concern for me.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I think that $400 price point is huge. I think in a way that almost beats the $300 Series S. Because the way I see it, the S, and I know we had some debates about this on the last show, talking about the Series X versus Series S. We looked at specs and everything. I'm not a super technical person, so I don't understand exactly what all the different drives and I don't fully understand how all that's going to work and how that's going to line up. But at the end of the day, the X is more powerful than the S, right? That's the intention. Right. That's why it's so much cheaper. Sure, it's going to be able to still do the same stuff, but it's not going to be as powerful. for that to be 300 and not be the best version, that's cool. That's a good entry point, but it's not.
It's very
it's
important
not
for a lot
want.
of people,
Right?
But for people like us, it does not really have value.
But I do think you look at, okay, 500 to get into next generation, but wait, if I can only buy digital games, which I understand is some sacrifices, but I think a lot of people are more comfortable with that.
I mean, you were like so ready to be like, yes, all digital, please get me away from discs.
I would take that any day because that means I always have my games. But suddenly $400 to get me a new next gen system with no compromises other than I have to get all of my games digitally.
Right.
Like that to me just sounds like a no brainer. Like obviously I'm going to want to do that. So I felt $400 price point. That was, I felt like that was just too good to be true. Almost. It just, I still don't really, I can't believe that's the world we're living in right now. Where that all worked out that way. But
yeah, it was a good reveal. Like just that in general, even like they could have shown very few games and they still would have won the day.
Right.
With that alone. But the fact is, they did show a lot of games.
They did show a lot of games.
They showed a lot of good stuff. And there is how you do a proper segue, Jake.
That is a great segue, Stephen. Let's talk about some of the games they showed. Now, obviously, they've done another showcase already. There's a lot of games that we're not going to talk about that they already talked about, but this is just from the most recent show. So they opened the show with a huge announcement. Final Fantasy 16 is revealed, and it's revealed to be a PlayStation console exclusive. Now,
that is so big.
How long that's going to be an exclusive? Is it going to be a permanent exclusive? I doubt it, but obviously it's going to be a console exclusive for a while, and potentially the whole time. But now, Steven, I did not finish Final Fantasy 15. I recently did the remaster of Final Fantasy 7, so I almost feel like I need to go back and finish 15. But I'm going to give you the floor of a bigger Final Fantasy, bigger Final Fantasy person. What did you think of the trailer that they showed?
So to ground that glowing review that I was just given, that resume I was just given, I love Final Fantasy as an IP. I haven't played many mainline Final Fantasy games in my time. 15 is one of the only ones. I love the tactics games. I think I played through 3. I've played a good few Final Fantasy games, but I love the world. I love the concept of combining magic with science, with science and futuristic and all that kind of stuff. And the interesting thing about this is that Final Fantasy 15 was kind of combining high fantasy with modern day.
Right.
This looks like it's going straight back to medieval high fantasy, with no inclusion of, all the Final Fantasy games, well, not all of them, but the majority of them have no connection whatsoever outside of just the world, the gods, and the terminologies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I recognized a lot of the summons that were happening in the trailer. I was like, oh, I remember that guy from whatever one it was that played.
Right. And interesting about this one, and again, I don't know much about the recurring things in Final Fantasy, like the different summons, I guess they were just called the summons. The summons that I don't know their origins or anything, but the impression I got, like literally, I walked away from this trailer being like, one, I'm shocked that no one had spoiled that for me because I just watched the PlayStation event today.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that they had shown like actual stuff for Final Fantasy. I thought that they had just said, hey, Final Fantasy 16 is coming. I had no idea they actually showed stuff, and it looks really cool. But when I watched that, I was just thinking, as I watched it, like them talking about the Phoenix and how the different summons seemed like they almost were a key story beat. It was almost like, are we getting an origin of, like, is this going to center around the summons themselves? Like, are we going to learn about them as entities? Which would be really cool. I don't know if they've done that before, because again, my Final Fantasy like big picture lore knowledge sucks. But I know that they are recurring entities amongst the games, and I don't know if they've ever explained whatever they are. And this seemed like the Phoenix at least was very important in this game.
Right.
But I mean, I think it looks great. Gameplay looks really cool. If the final product is anything like what we saw, hopefully it's not gonna get the development hell treatment that 15 got.
Oh, well, it's Square Enix, and it's Final Fantasy at that. So I am sure, I don't know about development hell, but it will definitely, it's not going to come out fast. Is what I'm trying to say.
Brody said to us, and the only confirmation of this is his word, but I trust it, that the guy, I don't know if it was the creative lead or someone is involved with it. It was the guy who was responsible for Final Fantasy 14's revival. And you know, Final Fantasy 14 is the MMO darling of gaming right now. So
right.
That could be good.
I think it could. And the only thing I can say is it looked like it had very similar gameplay to Final Fantasy 15.
It did.
So that's exciting for me, because I never finished that one, but it definitely was. It had everything going for it to get me to finish. Yeah. It just came at a bad time.
If they can take because one of the things I loved about 15 was the characters, how it was like you basically were always a group. And I loved the road trip best friends aspect of it. Like the best part about Final Fantasy 15 was the stuff that felt nothing like Final Fantasy, honestly.
Right.
And I hope that we get either more of that kind of very intimate character kind of stuff, or we get just a big roster. Basically, I want to see more from characters.
Right.
Because 15 really showed that characters in a Final Fantasy game, even if it's just a coming of age story, pretty much, they can really drive it.
Well, and I think 7 can show that as well, because they expanded the character stories in that game in the remaster, and they're like characters who had 2 lines in the first one are such an emotional pull in the first one. I'm thinking of, I can't even remember her name. I want to say Anna, but it's one of the girls who likes Cloud, but immediately, like, she dies at the end of the game, which, like, for the original game, you like met her and then she died. That was it. So they really, you know, they're good at storytelling with characters. They treat their characters right.
Yeah, and it's funny because Final Fantasy, at least, and again, this is me being a person who my insight into Final Fantasy is fairly narrow. But I would have always thought Final Fantasy, for the majority of its time, to be the game that just did really cool world building, like big apocalyptic or massive high fantasy stories. But now it's like, when I played 15, I was like, wait, when did Final Fantasy get really good at just personal character stories?
Right.
And I would love, if somebody actually knows the answer to that question, please let me know. Like, when did that start? Because I know Cloud and Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, I know they were kind of hailed as really big characters, but other than that, I don't really hear about Final Fantasy leads that much.
Right.
So yeah, I would love to hear like Final Fantasy recommendations, because I'm always down to try more of that series.
Well, speaking of people doing their characters right, let's talk about Miles Morales.
Ooh.
We got a new extended look at the Miles Morales game. They featured combat. They featured a little bit of Miles just kind of walking around Harlem, having a great time. And there's a lot of cultural representation in that. That's what I've been seeing a lot about on Twitter. So that's really, it's good to hear from people that they're really excited about that representation. So I'm glad they're doing that. But that we got to see some of the combat. We got to see the new villain, the Tinkerer. Basically got that it's going to be coming out in holiday 2020. It was confirmed after the event that it's going to be a launch title. So that's very cool.
And it's going to cross release with PS4.
And it is going to be cross releasing with PS4. That was another thing that weirdly came after the presentation. I feel like that should have been a thing that was included in that messaging. But Steven, you loved Marvel's Spider-Man on PS4.
One of my favorite games of all time.
Yes, really good stuff. What did you think about this extended look in this trailer?
I thought, like, first of all, whoever they got to portray Miles, bravo! Like
the voice actor,
the voice actor. Well, really, just all of it. Like they did such a good job. And my gauge of Miles Morales is Into the Spider-Verse. And I know he goes way back from that point, but that was my introduction into really getting to know the character, because that was kind of when he was thrust into the mainstream media, and so my gauge of Miles Morales is from that point, and they like the whoever's doing the voice, great job. Visually, he looks great. The way he moves, like the way he swings, how it's kind of rubbery, to where it's more spastic movement. That's nailed it. Like that's such a great way to
looks
separate.
like a young Spider-Man.
He does. He looks like he's not experienced, but he's just got such raw potential, and that is Miles in a nutshell to me.
Absolutely, especially in combat, which I know you're probably about to talk about, but his combat, they showed the electricity abilities, I forget what they call it, the Viper Sting, or what do they call it in the comics?
Venom
Strike.
Or Venom Strike, that's
Venom
what it was.
Strike, something like that. Anyway, I knew Miles had lightning or electric abilities, but like they
didn't know he was
blew it out of
freaking
the
Static
water.
Shock though. Like,
amen. I mean, they made it look like he was Static Shock or the Shocker or something. That's what I was kind of comparing it to.
You're thinking Electro. Shocker's the Sonic Wave guy.
Okay. Well, still,
I used to make that mistake all the time.
Some lightning character is what I was expecting out of that after watching, because his powers were awesome.
Yeah, he looked amazing.
He looked amazing.
Yeah, there's a move in the game Wizard of Legend. It's a couch co-op roguelike magic game. There's this lightning spell where you dash at an enemy and then you do like a rapid fire dash between all nearby enemies. And it's awesome. Miles does that in this gameplay, and it looks so dope. I was worried when they announced this that it was going to be just like, oh, you play as Miles, and he's honestly not that different from Peter. He just has a small skill tree where he can do a little taser thing, or he can turn invisible. No, they made him completely different by the look of it, and even down to the animations, he moves completely different, which is so important because visually that tells so much about his character, and I'm glad that is a priority for them. And not that I should doubt them, because again, they nailed it so well with just regular Spider-Man PS4 that I have faith in them. But regarding the rest of the trailer,
what did you think of the Tinkerer? I know you've got some thoughts on that.
I think it's Yuri from the first game, because it sounded just like her to me. You guys may hear differently, but to me it was just like, wait, is that Yuri? And it would make sense because they kind of left her story open for more at the end of the Spider-Man PS4 DLC. Right. And that would reflect where she ended up in her arc. But that would be interesting. I'm curious to see if Peter plays a role in this at all. Even if we just get an answer of, oh, this is where Peter is, this is what he's doing. I'm curious. I hope he doesn't die. Surely he won't, because I think their reasoning is that Miles is in Harlem. So it's
Right.
like
He's in a
his
different part of
neighborhood.
town.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that maybe we get a cameo from Peter, but that he, for the most part, stays completely out of it.
Yeah, it'd be cool if there was like in the final fight, if Peter shows up to help, and it's you don't like, you never play as Peter, but Peter is supporting Miles in the final fight somehow.
Yeah, but in a way to where like Peter doesn't show up to save him, but because Miles does need to be able to resolve his own stuff by himself. I don't want Peter to come in and be like, hey, you needed my help, but I do want Peter to do something, if that makes sense. But for the most part, not draw focus, let Miles shine, all that kind of stuff. I just love this version of Peter to where I'm always like, yeah, just put him in everything.
Well, Brandon Urie did a great job with Peter Parker. So
Brandon Urie is 30, not 30 Seconds to Mars. That's Panic at the Disco. You're thinking Yuri Lowenthal.
Yuri Lowenthal, thank you. I got the Yuri part right, and that's all I needed.
Yeah, we said Yuri a lot.
And I did. There's a lot of Yuri happening in this dialogue. Yeah, I thought it looked great. I agree with you. I think it would make sense if that was Yuri. I have mixed feelings about it though, because I obviously they're setting up something with Yuri to happen.
Yeah.
But I just didn't. I hope
you didn't picture it being that.
Well, not even that. I'm fine with what they're doing with it. I just was kind of expecting that to be a full sequel villain. So I do think it's going to be interesting because this essentially is it's more than a DLC, but it is not Spider-Man 2. It's its own separate thing. And so I would just hate for something they built up where I thought it was going to be the, Spider-Man 2 villain, and it just ends up being, I don't know. Yeah, and maybe that's what it needs to be, because all of that was set up in DLC. Right. And so if she, the fruition of that, the payout to that whole storyline, if that all took place in essentially a DLC plus game, I can see that working out.
To me, it would fit the caliber of what would need to be a Miles villain,
right? Because
Spider-Man 2, it's pretty much, it's not been confirmed, but it's been heavily hinted towards that's going to be Venom.
Yes.
And so, like, to me, if they're gonna pay off this Yuri story, she isn't the kind of villain that I see being a city threatening event or a world threatening event or whatever. She's a more personal, like, one-on-one kind of vendetta situation. So it does fit for Miles for like his level of threat. But the one thing that doesn't sit right with me is that Miles doesn't have any emotional stake in taking her down.
Right.
Because she was Peter's friend.
Maybe that's a good reason for him to be the one to do it. He doesn't have
maybe so, yeah.
It's going to be hard for Peter to fight that fight. So if Miles doesn't have that connection, maybe he can
that would be a good way for them to have Miles be like the secret weapon in that conflict and not nerf Peter. Right. Have it basically be where, like, he's going to throw a punch and her helmet gets knocked off or something, and he hesitates because she's his friend and that's his weakness. But Miles comes in and he's like, I don't know this chick, and then he just punches her in the face.
I don't know you.
Like that would make sense.
It's a really big moment for us as the audience, because we're like, oh my God, it's Yuri. And he's like, who are you? Just punches her. That would be great.
Yeah, it would fit though. For him to have to be able to be what Peter can't.
That's what that would make sense to be.
Yeah. And ultimately, everyone seems to say that, or at least in the comics, I think it's portrayed this way, but Miles is meant to surpass Peter eventually. So
his gameplay definitely alludes to that.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it would be a good way for him to be triumphant without basically making him God mode within his first game.
Right. Well, I'm excited to see what they do. We won't have to wait too terribly long because that is going to be a launch title. So that's very exciting. And if you were somebody who maybe you couldn't afford a PS5, but you loved the first Spider-Man, it's coming to PS4. So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
The only other thing that's kind of interesting about this is they are releasing an Ultimate Edition, which is going to have a remastered version of Spider-Man PS4. Basically rebuilt from the ground up for PS5. That Ultimate Edition, I don't know if it's $70, but it is a full price game. So I guess it would be $70 now. That's kind of the new full price. But if you can get a standard edition version, which is just the Miles Morales stuff, and that's going to be a cheaper price. I want to say it was $50. But I don't have those numbers in front of me, so I'm literally pulling that out of my butt.
I might have to get the Ultimate Edition because
as much as you loved the first one, I'd
play it again.
You'd be dumb not to. Yeah,
I would totally play it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I absolutely.
And I would love to see how if it truly is enhanced for PS5. Whew, sign me up.
What is that?
Right in my veins.
Because it was already so you talk about load times, gorgeous, and all this and that. It's going to be a good one. But okay, so moving on. Now this was a big announcement for me, and obviously we've known about this game for a while, but I was not expecting to see it here. And of course, I'm talking about the Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy. Was finally officially announced, confirmed. This is a game by the Portkey. I forget if they're Portkey Games or whatever, what exactly their name is, but the branch of WB Games, Portkey folks that have been doing all the Harry Potter stuff. They announced Harry Potter Legacy. It is an RPG. It looks like players are going to be traveling back to the late 1800s. You're going to be visiting well-known locations from the movies and books like the Forbidden Forest and obviously Hogwarts and Hogsmeade. And it's coming to PS5 in 2021. So now, Steven, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Where do you stand on Harry Potter? Are you a big fan? Do you not like it?
I'm not that into Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. I used to be against Harry Potter because I was homeschooled.
Right.
That's just
that's
you
part
got
of being
line
a homeschooler. Yeah.
There's the line in the sand.
Yeah.
If you're pro Harry Potter, you're not pro Lord of the Rings, and I'm pro Lord of the Rings. That's how it was. That's how it was back in the day. But then it was just oh, hey, we can actually be adults and enjoy multiple things. Who would have thought?
What? When did that become a thing?
I married a big Harry Potter fan, so I love Harry Potter now. But I showed Anna.
She's not holding
the trailer
a gun over his behind the camera.
No,
folks.
she's not.
He's
Although
not.
you never know because I am 7 Days to Die gameplay now.
That's
am
right.
Not.
You can't even see Steven's camera.
Yeah. Jake is in on it. He was like, hey, let's do this thing so that Anna can come in and hold a gun to your head.
And tell you have to say you like Harry Potter.
But I waited to watch the trailer to watch it with her. And even though I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, I like the world of Harry Potter. It's very intriguing. Right. I think it's got a lot of potential, especially as a video game. Yes. And I'm not going to lie, the trailer was great. It felt like a movie trailer, honestly, the way they swelled with the rendition of the Harry Potter theme by John Williams. Mm-hmm. That was John Williams, right? I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it was John Williams, but just the way they did all that, it gave me some chills, and I'm excited to see more from it. I'm really curious how it's going to play. If there's going to be any kind of multiplayer element, or if it's going to be entirely single player.
Right. See, that's where I'm at now. I am sold, right? They had me sold the moment they put Harry Potter in it. I am on board. When we heard just the rumors of this game, because originally we thought a lot of people thought it was a Rocksteady game, that it was Rocksteady's next game. They were working on a Harry Potter game. Obviously easy to confuse because it is coming from WB Games. They're in that family.
I forget that Rocksteady is not the only WB developer.
I know, right? It's hard. They're the most well known, but I've been sold on the idea and the concept, and now that we've seen a trailer, it Used to when movies came out, there would be like a tie-in game that would
Yep.
like recap the game's story with like
They usually were
maybe
terrible,
some
but yeah.
new stuff. They usually were terrible. The Lord of the Rings games are one of the few exceptions of
Yes.
like it was still a decent game. Anyway, I digress. You're used to those kind of things when you look at something like this. I'm really excited to see what a well thought out sounds mean and not right, but like I'm excited to see what somebody really putting effort and being like, okay,
Not being
what's
tied
like-
to the movie canon.
yes,
Yeah.
we're not tied to anything. What does a Harry Potter video game look like?
What does a Harry Potter do?
What does the Harry Potter do? The Spider-Man does what the Spider-Mans do. What does the Harry Potter do? I'm so excited. And like spells, like they showed a bunch of spells being done. And like I love the idea of you're playing the game and you have just this arsenal of spells, like not just 3 or 4 that are mapped to buttons, but like you can put in, you can have a loadout of spells that you're ready to
It'd be
use,
cool if they portrayed it or did an option to be like runic magic in Outward, to where you got like if you hold down L2, you can have a square, triangle, circle, and X to be different like words that you could say, and different combinations of words can make a different spell. Something like that would be awesome.
I could dream all day about what I want this to be, because I can't wait. So hopefully we'll hear more soon. Obviously it's a 2021 game. I don't think they gave us a quarter in that announcement.
I don't think so.
We still don't really know when, but hopefully sooner rather than later. I would just love to see more sooner rather than later.
The way you describe that is how I felt and continue to feel about Avengers. How it's like, because I love the Marvel IP, but I disagree with a lot of MCU stuff. I love the MCU, but I disagree with a lot of it. And so for what we've gotten out of this game, them to have those characters in that world, but be able to do their own thing, that's been really exciting. And so I hope that they can, with Harry Potter, I hope they're given that freedom to tell stories that don't feel like they have to be like, oh, this is that character in the movie and this is what we're going to focus on because movie, all that kind of stuff.
Because the movies still have to happen. Well, I don't think they're going to do that. I hope, if anything,
they literally set like a 200-year divide. So it's like, they probably asked J.K. Rowling. They're probably like, how far away from your books do we have to make this appear to just not have to worry about it? She's probably like 200 years. And they were like, okay.
Okay, there you go. That's what we're going to do. Make it 300. Let's go. So yeah, that's super exciting. I can't wait to see and hear more from that one. So the next game, they showed some gameplay of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War's campaign. Gonna be honest, I fast forwarded through this part.
I watched it.
I'm just not a big Call of Duty person, but
I watched it and it was like, to me, it looked great visually, but at the same time, it was just like, this kind of looks like Battlefield now visually, which is a compliment because Battlefield has always looked more impressive than Call of Duty visually, in my opinion. I don't really know if that's much of an opinion or not. It looks very realistic. Yeah. But then in the trailer, they're chasing down a giant cargo plane that is trying to take off. They're driving a Jeep. The player is sniping things, and then they're like, quick, use the RCXD. This takes place in the 80s, by the way.
Right.
So he takes out an RCXD, which is a remote control car with C4 strapped to it. And he drives the remote control car through all this craziness, catches up with the plane in a remote control car, like straight up Home Alone style remote control car, and blows up the plane. And that's when I was like, done.
That's all I've seen from this game, and I still laugh at the thought of that. Like, how does an RC car catch up? But whatever. Okay.
I saw that and I was like, no, this is wrong.
We got another look at Resident Evil Village. They showed some gameplay of that. I also fast forwarded a little bit through this one. I did stop for longer segments. It has a very dark fairy tale kind of aesthetic going on. I don't know what was up with that creepy old lady. I am not a scary game person, so this is not me. But Steven, I know you were excited when that one was originally announced. Did you?
I was excited because I called it. That's the only reason.
Okay.
I have no stake in Resident Evil anymore. I never really did. I can't act like I was a big fan. I just don't know what they're doing, and I'm just confused to where it's like I have no doubt that the Resident Evil games are to this day great horror games. To say that they weren't would be just denying a bunch of cold hard facts about how well 7 performed. Fact is, I never played it. But what I can say from my perspective is that I don't know what they're doing. Like from an outside perspective looking in, I'm just like, wait, I thought Resident Evil was like an outbreak, like a mutating virus. Why are we focusing on a cannibal family, or why is there a werewolf now? And like, I just don't know what's going on. And maybe I should just watch a Resident Evil explained video, or something to see if I would care about Village. But I don't know. I'm not a big horror games person either. So I don't know.
Well, maybe you'll like this one better. They also showed a new gameplay trailer for Deathloop.
Yes.
Looks so good. This one was a lot more. I feel like this one did a good job of. I feel like the last trailer we got, it explained what was happening, where you're an assassin, you're trying to take out
not how it's happening.
Yeah, but not how it's happening. This one showed, okay, I'm an assassin. I'm going after my 5 targets, but there's another. The other person, the other assassin, is another player, right? Have I misunderstood that, or?
My understanding is that it can be.
Gotcha.
To where, like, I assume it's like invasion style.
Yeah, there's another assassin always chasing you while you're trying to assassinate these other people. So
I don't know if it's like, and again, this is one of those things that I need to just do my research. But if it's only a player, then I would imagine that it works invasion style, to where you're in the middle of your Deathloop run, and then suddenly the game is like, she's on your trail because a player joined your game and is trying to invade you. So maybe that's how it works, and that she's not like always hunting you, because that would be way too hard logistically to do. Where it's a player always hunting you, and I would hate that personally. But it looks so good. I love the style that they inject into these trailers. It's got
they had
such
a really
good
cool 70s kind of vibe going.
And just the way that you can be methodical like that, I love. I love it. But the actual combat looks super fun. I'm just so ready for this game. It's one of those that
what's the game that I'm thinking of that it has powers like this?
Dishonored.
Dishonored. Thank you. It's got a lot of the Dishonored power.
That's because Arcane did Dishonored as well.
Right. Same folks.
Yep.
Just different strokes.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. Coming out Q2 of 2021. So
it did get delayed.
Been delayed.
Yeah.
But we now have an idea of when the new window is.
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Just don't screw it up. Take all the time you need.
Take all the time you need. Yeah, I don't know where I stand on this one yet. I think I'm gonna have to see more of it once it comes out. If a reviewer can really sell it to me, I might go for it. But we'll have to see what's happening around that time. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition was announced. Steven, I know you're a big Devil May Cry fan. It's basically not a remaster. Remaster is not really right. It is a special edition. There's a faster paced turbo mode. Virgil will be playable, and there's a new difficulty mode called Legendary Dark Knight.
Goodness.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm curious how they'll do the Virgil thing, because in the trailer he was like, I wonder what would happen if I had your power or something like that. And I didn't know if that was them saying like that the Virgil story would be a what if, like its own not connected story to what actually happens in DMC, which would make sense because you can't really play Virgil in DMC 5 without the story changing, because spoiler alert, even though this trailer completely spoiled the big beats of Devil May Cry 5, V is Virgil. Right. It is him with all of his demon side extracted. So it's his human side is who V is.
Gotcha.
And that's why there was the demon, and V showed up to request help to take out the demon because Virgil was split into two entities. So if Virgil is an active part of the story, it's like, well, how do they do that if V is also there? So I'm curious to see what that all means. And honestly, citing DMC, like the Ninja Theory remake that a lot of people hate, but I actually enjoyed, which there's going to be a forward compatible of that someday. We'll see when it happens.
At some point.
Actually, that may be October. Now that I'm thinking about it, that might be a fitting October game. Anyway, that's going to be a lightning rod of a video. But in that game, you got to play as Virgil in a DLC campaign that basically was his descent into villainy, because he's a good guy in that game. I preferred Virgil to Dante. He is right, and it looks like.
I remember you saying you were really surprised how much you ended up liking him in Devil May Cry 5.
He wasn't in 5. You couldn't play as Virgil.
I'm sorry. I'm getting Virgil and V mixed up.
Yeah. V was fantastic. Yeah,
gotcha.
But Virgil, like V is like a summoner character. Virgil uses a katana, can summon spirit blades, and teleport. He is super fun. That's how he played in DMC, for that matter. But watching this trailer was like, okay, so it looks like that is kind of a good representation of Virgil overall. So I don't know. I might get it depending on how they price it, because playing Virgil could be really fun. But it just depends on how much money they're going to try to get from me for it.
$2 million. We also got the new Oddsworld Soulstorm gameplay. This was another one that I fast forwarded through.
I still have no idea what's going on with this game. Like, I understand that, like, Oddworld, it was a game, like, it's a classic game, right? Like, we established that. I still just don't understand it. Like, I never played Oddworld.
I don't either. I'll give it this. It looks amazing. Like from their what they're doing with the art style, it just looks really impressive. But I have no interest in it beyond that. I'm trying to remember if I don't think they gave us any more like release date or anything like that. So that's all you got there. Just some new gameplay. There was a Five Nights at Freddy's security breach was announced. They just showed a kind of teaser trailer for that.
That was an interesting announcement.
It was. I wasn't expecting it, but it was funny as it's kind of, you're slowly zooming out of this arcade. And the further we got, I was just like, Five Nights at Freddy? What is this? So anyway, it's a new location. The Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex. It's going to bring new places to explore. It looks like Five Nights at Freddy's bigger than it's ever been, right?
Right.
I'm really curious to see what it's going to be there, because most of those games you're trapped behind a security camera, right? You're in some unit.
For the most part, you're in one space and you are trying to prevent things from getting to you.
Right.
And I really appreciate FNAF as a franchise. I will never play one. It's just not for me. But I love its approach to storytelling, even though it's a retcon nightmare, because of how much Scott Cawthon has changed things or altered things, or he has the book continuity and then the game continuity. Sometimes they're the same. It's just a whole thing. But the way, like, honestly, Scott Cawthon, before he did Five Nights at Freddy's, he did like really poorly made Christian kids games. And he got a bad review where they were like, this character looks like he's from my nightmares. He's terrifying. He's not supposed to be. And so Scott Cawthon heard that and he's like, oh, you want scary? I'll give you scary. So while he was like working at a Dollar General, pretty much, he made FNAF. And if you had told me this guy was not like, that he didn't have a doctorate in like marketing, I wouldn't believe you.
Right.
Because he is so good at marketing his stuff. Yeah. It's scary how good he is.
Well,
and I just appreciate his efforts. Gosh, sorry. I'm fighting spider zombies and they're very loud.
Okay, I'm fighting an electric eel or an electric stingray, so that's squirting electric ink. So it happens. They showed Fortnite gameplay. Fortnite's going to be a launch title. Cool.
Next.
Next, they showed the PS Plus collection, which has, I want to say, 18 pretty big games, all from the PS4 generation that are going to be day one downloads for free for PS Plus owners for your PS5. What did you think of that? There was, I could probably find the collection, but in general, what did you think of that, Steven? I'll list off the collection here in a second.
I thought it was smart because a lot of those games are the reason to have a PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a game of chess that's happening right now. And both sides are asking themselves like what they need to do in this game of chess. They're asking themselves what they need to do to win over the other side. Right. And with Microsoft, their answer, which was a very smart answer, was we need to win the value war. We need to give people who may not buy a console or they may not be able to afford what they think a next gen console is worth. We need to give those people less reason to say no.
Right.
And with Sony, their method is we need to keep doing what we're doing, but also we need to give incentive for people who their reason for not playing on PlayStation is, well, people keep talking about all these exclusives, but I've never played any of them. So how can I just hop in? And this is Sony literally saying, here you go.
Here's how you hop in.
Yeah.
Hop in.
It's very smart. So both sides are doing what they should be doing from my point of view. So it's interesting.
Yeah. So here's what's in that collection. It's Batman Arkham Knight, Battlefield 1, Bloodborne, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 15, God of War, Infamous Second Son, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Monster Hunter World, Mortal Kombat 10, Persona 5, Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Until Dawn. So
that is a powerhouse list.
A powerhouse list. If you're already in the thing, so this is all interesting to me because I agree, Steven. The thing that this is really great for is somebody who missed the PS4 generation.
Yep. They, for
whatever reason, just never got on board. They're looking at the PS5 now. They're saying, oh, I could maybe do $400 for the all digital edition. The next thing that they're going to have to get to be able to play online is PS Plus.
Yep.
Bam. There's 18 games,
most of those are fantastic games.
Would be on a list, right, of top 25 games you've got to play from the PS4 generation, right?
Right.
There's 18, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Let's say 18, because I'm pretty sure that's the number I heard. I counted 17. There's 18 games right there that you get for the subscription you're going to have to get to play online with your friends.
Yep.
Bam. What a great start.
Yeah.
It is a little annoying for me because I've played all but maybe 5 of those games. Mm-hmm. And out of the 5 that I haven't played, I'm maybe interested in 3. Like I never played Persona 5. Now I don't have any reason why not to at least try it. God of War, I'm glad I'll have that downloadable. I won't have to, I have a disc for that one, so I don't have to put in a disc anymore.
Right.
Infamous Second Son, I could go for a replay of.
Absolutely.
There's some on there that I'm not upset about this. It's just not a huge win for me like it would be for somebody who didn't play any of these.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, as much as it sucks, because it's like you especially have been just Sony loyal since PS3 at least, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so for you, it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. My loyalty is getting paid by incentivizing players who did not have the faith in Sony that I've had. Like it is kind of But
that's true, and it does suck to be that way. But on the same front, if you're gonna play on PlayStation and you're gonna play online games, which I think at this point most people are, I don't. Not to say that there aren't people who aren't only playing solo games, but I think they're a rare bird at this point. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's not the case. But I have to have PlayStation Plus, right? I have to have that to play any of the online games that I play. So all of this is a bonus, because I have to have this service to play online. So anything they give me is going to be better than nothing. I just hope they will continue to give nicely. Which brings me to another story I do want to talk about that has come out of this. So a lot of people have been looking at the collection, and like you just said, this is their way, a lot like Xbox is doing with Games Pass, of enticing people, to come to the system. Here's a way to get you in and get you going, really cheap. Something Sony has come out and confirmed. I want to say Jim Ryan, I may be getting names wrong. He said in an interview that Sony has no plans to do first parties coming to a subscription service like Games Pass. And basically what he said, and I am pulling all of this from my memory, but there are articles on IGN about it. He basically said, it costs, millions and hundreds of millions to make these games. Putting them out on a service like that is just not sustainable. It's not going to be profitable in the end. And so that's where they are. Yeah. Like this, we as PlayStation people will probably never get an full Xbox Game Pass service.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not even backwards compatibility. I think they probably is something that they're working on. And this is me talking out of my butt here. Yeah. I'm sure they are trying to work out a solution for that. I think they're seeing that, oh, okay, crap, our fans do care more about that. That's a huge selling point that Xbox has. But I don't think they have a good solution for it. And honestly, it's so complicated on their end that they're probably never going to have a good solution for it.
Yeah.
But more so, I think just that subscription service idea is not good, which I'll be honest, I wish they would just combine PS Plus and PS Now. And just give us some, like, for a while, Xbox had Xbox Game Pass. Then they had Xbox Live. And then I think there was another service in there somewhere, Xbox Gold, Games with Gold or something. Yep. At some point, they just combined all of that to be one thing. And I think that's a huge thing. I wish Sony would do something like that, or at least give us the option. Because I'm sure they would have to make that, more, not more expensive, but more expensive than just one or the other. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice to have something where you could cheaply get both of those options. But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. That was just kind of a tangent I wanted to travel down as we talked about that. I think that was all from the showcase. Of course, they then showed the prices and all this and that. But
you're forgetting.
And then at the very end, Jim Ryan came out and said, "Hey, there it is. That's the price. We're excited. Blah blah blah. We got one more thing for you."
He took his hand. He opened it, but stretched his thumb out and went, "Boy," and then it went to black. That's not what actually happened, but man, if it did.
Man, if they had done that. So yes, they the God of War logo in blue comes on screen with a voiceover of Kratos basically saying you need to prepare yourself for what's coming, blah blah blah. And then title screen, God of War Ragnarok. Or no, it didn't even say title screen. It just said Ragnarok is coming. Which, like, to me, blew my mind, okay? Not to get into spoilers of God of War, but, like, the end of God of War, Ragnarok is coming, right? Like, you understand the importance of who you are in this world and what you're about to bring about. I am assuming at this point, Steven, and this is up for debate right now, I am assuming this is God of War 2 Ragnarok, okay? There are a lot of people who are saying, is this a Miles Morales thing? Is this God of War, 1.5? Is this the true sequel, or are we looking at something like that?
It's-
I am in the camp, especially with a name like Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I am in the camp
they're
that
not
it's a
gonna
sequel.
they're not gonna make Ragnarok a B plot. Ragnarok
Right.
has never been a B plot.
I'll be honest with you. I can't believe we're at Ragnarok already.
Did you think it was going to be a God of War 3 kind of thing?
I would think at the very least, they're thinking of a trilogy.
Yeah.
I would hope, one can always hope that they'll do like a saga or something. But at the very least, you're going to do a trilogy, right? What comes after Ragnarok? Like, how are you gonna come back and circle back around?
Do you want me to theorize what I think is going to happen?
Absolutely, because we have nothing to go on. That trailer was very bare bones.
I've never played God of Boy. I've never played a God of War game.
Okay, all right.
Keep that in mind as I say the things I'm about to say.
I thought for a second you were saying like, I've never played God of Boy or whatever you just said. And you were like, that's the title. They're going to call it God of War Boy.
No,
it's just like,
God of War Boy.
Sure, Steven. That was a hill to die on, but sure.
That was a hill to die on, but you did it.
It was a weird hill, but I'll take it.
I've had conversations with a couple people around the time God of Boy had just come out. And they basically spoiled the game for me. But based on what we talked about and like questions they had in their head, I think that what's going to happen is that, what's the boy's name again? It's on the tip of my tongue. Atreus. I think Atreus is going to kill Kratos in God of War 2. And then the third game is going to be us playing as Atreus.
Interesting. That would be so sad, though.
Don't ask me to quote
to
quote or cite or anything. I will not APA cite why. I just remember a lot of the context of the conversation that I did have with some people. Like, as I was hearing what they were telling me and like the different unanswered questions, my first thought was, and I even said this to one of them, I was like, sounds to me like Atreus is going to kill his dad. And one of them, like the one that I said that to, was like, oh my God. And he like, his mind was blown. So apparently there's sense to that.
There's some credence to that.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if that was the direction they went, but I don't hear that theory and think, no, there's no way. There's no way. Like, and I would like to think there's no way, but I absolutely could see that happening.
And maybe it wouldn't be done in such a way where it was like Atreus turning on Kratos. Maybe it would be in such a way to where it was to prevent Ragnarok or something. I don't know, but like to me, it seems like we are headed towards Atreus. Like his story is very important. And
it's about to become Atreus's story one way or the other. I completely agree with what you said. I agree with this. The third one, if we have a third one, we're going to be playing as Atreus. I do not doubt that at all. At this point, since they're calling it Ragnarok, we might be playing as Atreus in this one. I would not be shocked to find that out. So I think there is some credence to what you're saying there. But I don't know, that could be very, very interesting. I'm excited though. That was a huge mic drop. That was a great one more thing to have. Definitely gives us something to look forward to. I think the rumors on Twitter afterwards were like, oh yeah, this is closer than you think. This is closer than you probably expect. But I still think we've got a while before we're going to have a true payoff to that and actually get the game. But I'm excited. I'm excited for when that will happen and when we do get that game. Because that was one of my I didn't pick it as my game of the year that year, but that has been one of my games of the generation for sure.
Yeah.
Which was so surprising to me because I was not.
You've never played God of War before.
Yeah.
God of War.
I have played other ones. It was very mindless, like like a slumber party. We were in a game and we played God of War 3 or something one year for that. And it was one of those things we stayed up all night and played the game. And like, I just had it was one of those things we just played mindlessly and had I really didn't know what was going on, care what was going on. I just remember thinking Kratos, like, what a strange, angry character who just,
what an angry man.
What an angry man. There was no real substance, and they brought so much substance to him in these sequels. But anyway, all right. Speaking of strange, angry men, let's talk about what happened after the presentation. So the showcase happens. We're all coming off. I'm coming off, and I'm, as a PlayStation fan, as we've already said, I'm coming down like, wow, like they just knocked it out of the park for me. I'm excited. I can't wait to get my digital version. I'm looking on Twitter. I'm like, does anybody know about pre-orders? Because they didn't mention pre-orders, and I thought they would. I was hoping they would. They didn't mention that. So I'm looking around. I'm scrolling around. I see a tweet from one Jeff Keighley of the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, and he says, so some of you are probably wondering about pre-orders. I send that to you guys. I'm like, hey, y'all just keep your ears out. I'm ready. I want to just know pre-order details before I go to sleep tonight. Jeff then tweets, retailers are going to be opening up pre-orders as soon as tomorrow. I'm thinking, cool. And I'm wondering to myself, I'm like, does that mean midnight? Like, do I need to stay up tonight? What is going to happen? Like, when do I need to be ready? Because I knew it's going to be a bloodbath. Right? Like,
yep.
To jump quickly to the end of the story, if this had all gone perfectly planned and had been well explained, and there had been a lot of communication from Sony, it still would have been a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
But this was a bloodbath in the dark. So continuing the story.
Just a blind stabbing contest.
It was a blind stabbing contest. So next thing you know, there's a tweet from old Walmart. And they're like, hey, PS5. Yeah, we're gonna launch the pre-orders tomorrow. Psh, not. We're not gonna make you wait. They're live now. And so suddenly, bam, Walmart entire stock gone. And it's like, yep. Crap. How did this happen? I wasn't paying enough attention. Like, I'm screwed. So at this point, I'm texting you guys and I'm like, be on Twitter, be aware. If you see an Amazon link, let me know, because that's who I wanted to get a pre-order through. Next thing I know, Target, their stock is up. I go to Target, completely sold out of the digital only version, but I'm looking right at a disc version. So I have to ask myself, I'm like, at this point, do you want a system or do you have to have the digital version? Because I'm blessed that price.
That's what
was
the
not
devil
an issue.
on his shoulder said. It was like, all right, Jake, you got two options. It sounds like Danny DeVito from Hercules for some reason.
You can either have it or you can't. All right, what are you gonna do? You want
to have a system or you can have your pride.
Do you want your pride? So yeah. So that was literally what was going on in my head, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna sleep tonight if I don't have a pre-order. So I did the pre-order, got the disc version, and kind of just told myself, like, don't stop. Like, you disconnect from this story because you're done. I don't need you we don't need to worry about this. Now, I still paid attention because I was kind of in the back of my head hoping that, okay, maybe Amazon will launch and I can check and get a digital only version there. But I just stopped myself because there was also news circulating after this that it was like an 8-to-2 ratio of disc versus digital only versions. Like I was hearing from a lot of guys who have friends who work at GameStop, where they were being told, the GameStop employee was telling my friend that, hey, we've got 10 systems, 8 of them are disc and 2 of them are digital only. And so that blew my mind. I'm shocked that wasn't a 50-50 or at least a 60-40. To be an 80-20, that just blew my mind.
Right.
So anyway, I secured a pre-order. Steven, you secured a pre-order.
Yep.
We're good. But man, that was a fiasco.
It was.
And so, funnily enough, I think they did it today before we started streaming. But this is, again, coming from IGN. Adam Bankhurst wrote this article. Sony put out on Twitter, they put out a tweet that said, "Let's be honest, PS5 pre-orders could have gone a lot smoother. We truly apologize for that. Over the next few days, we will release more PS5 consoles for pre-order. Retailers will share more details, and more PS5s will be available through the end of the year." So if you haven't gotten your pre-order,
there's hope.
Don't go crazy. There is hope. You will get it. You know, they're trying to fix this. So Xbox, funnily enough, has also been tweeting like, "We're gonna make sure you know what time. We're gonna make sure you know what." So it's been kind of a fiasco for Sony here. But it's a testament to just what a weird year we've had. Of everything has been so cagey up to this point. You know, we've basically been waiting for somebody to go first, right?
Yep.
Xbox, their hand was forced. Sony waited a week, and then it's like if we had waited. Think about, Steven, if we had waited another week or two, right? Let's say Xbox never had to drop their stuff. Like, was this Sony event happening, period? Or did it all line up just right? Because literally, pre-orders were supposed to be Thursday, you know? And then as soon as the event happened and they said the date and they said the price, everything just kind of spilled over. You know what I mean? Like, we've been talking about how this has just been waiting to burst. Well, as soon as they, let it loose, it just all came out. You know, it's just been such a weird year. But I'm glad we got ours.
Yeah,
that's
same.
That's all I've got. That's all the news I had. There's some stuff about TikTok might be banned, and Gods and Monsters had to change their name because of Monster energy drink.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. That was what happened. I flagged that story because I knew last week, I think it was, or a few weeks ago.
Last week,
you off the cuff, like offhand, said something like, "Oh yeah, it was probably some legal issue.
Yep.
Like they probably were a copyright issue." I think is what you said exactly.
Yeah, I said legality issue.
Yeah,
that's usually what happens. What causes name changes?
Right. Well, anyway, I remember you said that, and I was just, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh wow, Steven nailed it right on the head." But anyway, yeah. So that was a Monster
funny.
energy drink thing. So funny. Such a Monster energy thing.
Classic Monster.
Classic Monster. I think part of it too was it's because they're already in the Death Stranding game. And so they were like, "We're already in video games. Like, we don't need you confusing people."
So it's Hideo Kojima's fault, is what I'm hearing.
In a roundabout way, Steven, yes, that is somewhat.
Freaking Hideo Kojima. My arch enemy.
Steven's classic Steven. Hideo's arch enemy. But anyway, that's all the news. Let's talk a little bit, Steven. We didn't do a catch up last week, but we've got a little bit of time. Catch up is where we normally catch up, talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching. I have been so busy with weddings over the last several weeks and months. So gaming has been on the back burner by far. But I have been playing the new Mario Sunshine game. I've been playing some more of Marvel's Avengers. But mostly I've just kind of been drowning in work and trying to stay above water. But I'll talk a little bit about Sunshine. I've been playing Sunshine. Obviously, you've been watching me play a little bit of it throughout this podcast. If you're watching through YouTube, it's really, really good. It's a great, obviously Sunshine is just one of 3 games that they launched in this collection. But Sunshine is exactly like I remember it. I've really, really, really been enjoying it. The only thing that I wish they had done is I wish someone had taken the time to explain the changes they made to the control scheme a little bit better. Because obviously they're the Pro controller and even just Joy-Cons are completely different than a GameCube controller. Even though you might not think there are that many changes, it's a lot more than you would think. Like a few days ago, I got stuck There's a certain level in Sunshine that you access the level by looking into the sun. And as I started to do it, I started to use what I knew as the aiming button, and I aimed up to the sun and nothing was happening. And I was like, the more I did it, the more I kind of remembered that, oh yeah, in the other game, it was kind of over Mario's shoulder, and it was almost like it was a first person, a third person shooter kind of look. And I was like, how do you do that? And so I went into the controls of this game, and it was like, press Y. And I was like, okay, I know that the Y button is in a different spot on this controller. So it probably isn't right, but I'll try it. And I tried a couple things, didn't work. I had to look up a YouTube video for someone to tell me that if you click in on R, like I'm doing now on the screen, you go into, I think they call it Mario aim or something like that. You go into that mode, and it's like, okay, the fact that I had to look up a video, the fact that somebody made a YouTube video to explain that one thing, like you tell me somebody couldn't have done that. Somebody couldn't have updated the control panel or something. So, and I know I've heard similar complaints on the other games in this collection from other people. So it's great to have this game, and I've been enjoying replaying it, but it definitely seems like they just kind of quickly threw these 3 games together.
Yep.
And obviously they did do some work to improve the graphics, and everything's been upscaled, but you can't deny that it's not. They didn't put a ton of work into it, right? They did the quickest update they could, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing. So anyway, Steven, what have you been playing and watching this week? I know you've been watching the new. I know you watched a little bit of the new
Dragon's Dogma.
Dragon's Dogma. Thank you. I was about to say Devil May Cry.
Devil May Dogma.
Devil May Dogma.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Dragon's Dogma. I'm only 2 episodes.
I couldn't get past the art style.
I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Even just the art style alone.
It's just this, like the CG. I'm not a huge fan of anime.
Don't you love Dragon Prince?
I do, and it took me a long time to be okay with the art style. I
just wanted to make sure.
I know, yeah. You can make that argument. I do enjoy that series, but they really had to convince me with the art style, because it is not my preferred style.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I have to commend them. They at least watched someone play the game. I don't know if I can say that they played it themselves or not.
Right.
And it's such nitpicky trash that I sent it to you guys as a joke. Because with this game, okay, what I texted was a character who appears to be a Strider was able to cast a fire boon, which should not happen. Striders can't do magic. Only mages and sorcerers and magic archers and mystic knights can use magic, and pawns can't be mystic knights or magic archers. So technically, since she was a pawn, she would only be able to be either a sorcerer or a mage. She was a Strider, and she can cast fire magic. And he's going to attack a Cyclops, and she's like, Arisen, take this. And she augments his sword with fire, but everyone who's played Dragon's Dogma for more than 2 hours and had a pawn in their party that's fought a Cyclops before knows that Cyclopses are weak to lightning, not fire. Did they even play the game? And they saw a pack of wolves, and they didn't even, not one person said, wolves hunt in packs. And that sounds like the stupidest thing. I know, Jake, you're just like, wow, Steven, even for you, that's pretty bad nitpicking. But every time, and it's a running joke, basically, every time you see a pack of wolves, because the way Dragon's Dogma works is pawns learn, they don't level, like if I sent my pawn to you, like if you used him, he wouldn't level up like numerically, his stats wouldn't go up, but he would learn. Like he would learn how to fight new enemy types and everything. So if you fought a lot of wolves, when in my game, I'm using my pawn again and he's come back from helping you, he is now an expert on fighting wolves. So he'll shout out hints like, hey, wolves hunt in packs. His way of saying there are more of them, basically. but it was it's just a running joke at this point with everyone who's played Dragon's Dogma. I feel like that as soon as they can, they will shout, "Wolves hunt in packs arisen." And they didn't use that. What a waste. But
it could have been at least one line. They didn't have to say it every time, but they should have at least thrown it in there once.
Right. But all in all, the spirit of the game, in that just the story of Grigori and the Arisen, the dragon and the Arisen, they handled so far. They've handled some of that stuff pretty well. The story is given more of a personal treatment rather than being big picture. And I mean, it's always been very anime, but with this, like, it feels like the main character is an actual person rather than just a insert for the player, which is nice. But I don't know. I'm not far enough to really give my full opinion.
Right.
But
you said 2 or 3.
I'm in it. I'm 2 episodes in. There's only 6.
Right. Yeah. I remember thinking it was really short, even for like a first season anime.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get worse. I really couldn't tell you. But just the fact that Dragon's Dogma has any kind of recognition today, like it's like an 8-year-old game that no one ever really talked about that much, even when it was new. So the fact that there is more coming for it, that's encouraging in and of itself. I just hope that people don't perceive it as so bad that we don't get any more. Because I want a Dragon's Dogma 2 desperately. Capcom, what are you doing? I love Virgil. I love Devil May Cry. But you're done. Move on. You got the best action game award. Move on to the next thing. The next thing is Dragon's Dogma. Do your job. You said you could either do Dragon's Dogma or you could do Devil May Cry. You did Devil May Cry. Okay, cool. It had its time in the sun. Now give me Dragon's Dogma. Now
give me more Dragon's Dogma. Well, hopefully they'll do that and that'll all work. I hope it gets better. At some point, I'm gonna at least watch the first episode. Like I said, I started and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, I'm not in the mood to put up with this style right now. So I'll have to go back to it. But anything else you've been playing or watching that you want to talk about?
I mean, obviously, I've been playing a lot of Avengers. I'll probably talk about that for a minute, but just to
are you you're still enjoying Avengers and everything that you're doing in it?
Yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. The grind is a bit harsh, but the gameplay loop is good enough to where it's like, if I'm playing the game, I'm happy. Like I'm making progress. The game is going to get more content in less than a month. That's hopefully going to offer not only more activities, but more characters, stuff like that. Basically, I'm playing Avengers, putting in the work so that once they've either made Iron Man play better or once they've released Hawkeye or whatever, then it's like, cool, I don't have to do the grinding as much. I can just enjoy it. Yeah. But I am enjoying it now. It's lacking proper multiplayer in-game content because they just released Mega Hives and Elite Heroic Hives or whatever, which basically that's the only way to get exotic gear right now, apparently. And it's single player.
Interesting.
That is such a foresight.
Yeah.
That or a misstep, whatever you want to call it. That makes no sense to me. And they're doing
sense to me either.
They're doing secret labs, I think, next month or later this month. I don't know. And that sounds like it's going to be quote unquote raid content. So maybe they'll correct the mistake there. Cause I do think Mega Hives and Elite Heroic Hives, basically the thing where your characters have to be at a certain power level. And anyone who is at that power level, you can use them. But if a character dies, then you have to rotate in another one.
You rotate in, yeah.
Yeah, I do think that mode is a good idea. I do think it has a place in the game, but it does not have a place being the only end game activity at any point in time. There needs to be more. There needs to be more co-op. And don't get me wrong, I'm playing with a friend of mine who I've played Division with him, and Summit for Division actually comes out Tuesday, so I'll be playing more Division then. But he and I played a little bit on Saturday, and it was really fun. And he even said so himself. He had not played co-op with anybody yet. And when we were approaching a hive, we were like strategizing, and he was just like, man, this is what I wanted. Like, and it works.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, it totally does work. It's just, this game needs time to grow. And in the meantime, like, it's basically a game that you invest in right now. There's not a ton there right now, but there's a fun gameplay loop, and there's definitely promise for a lot of stuff to come. Yeah. So really the decision you just have to make is, do I trust this game enough to actually put in the time so that if it does deliver, like, do I want to have to put in the effort before I get to the fun stuff, or do I want to put in the effort now so I can play the fun stuff as soon as it comes? That's the question you have to ask yourself right now.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Playing the multiplayer stuff with you, we played a little bit Thursday. I really enjoy that stuff. And again, especially because those sections you can play as the character you want to play as. Right. I find myself enjoying the story less and less. Just because, and it's only 10 hours, but for me, it is taking so long. And it's just because I only get to play for like an hour at a time. And so for me, that's like 2 or 3 missions, maybe. Right. And I'm very close to the end now. But like, I still don't have Thor. Thor is the character I've been playing online the most. So don't have Cap yet. So the 2 characters that I've enjoyed playing most, I don't have access to in the story mode right now.
Once you get them, the story, you're basically going to blink and the story is going to be over.
Right. And I'm fine with that, because honestly, at this point, I'm ready to just get further and have the story kind of checked off a list so that I can move on to the next thing. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm hoping that the next couple will be good, and that I'll enjoy the DLC. I say DLC, the free stuff that's coming next, Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. Yeah. But I don't know. The multiplayer is where it's at in that game for sure.
And it really is a blast. I have so much fun playing the co-op. And I really enjoy leveling up the character. Like the grind to level up characters is fun and interesting, because I don't know if I can say interesting, because a lot of people will be like, but the gear sucks. But the gear doesn't suck. It just doesn't stand out. But the characters are supposed to stand out, not the gear. And that sounds like a cop out, but to me, it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no. And I think what really made a difference for me is once I unlocked the mastery skill tree with Thor, and suddenly I can do things like every time I throw my hammer, wherever it lands, it starts blasting lightning. Right. That was when it clicked.
Those
are interesting choices and changes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that's when it all clicks.
And for me, like right now, I'm basically like, whenever I have time to play something on PlayStation, or whenever anyone's online that has the game, I'm down to play it, because I'm trying to level up all the heroes so I can do mega hives. But in playing all the characters, I've realized I don't hate a single one of them. I really enjoy all of them. Like to the point to where I could pretty much hop in a group and I would be totally fine with being the last person to pick which character I play. Right. That's really impressive, especially for me, because I'm normally super particular about who I play in games. In fact, guess who possibly my new best character is?
Black Widow?
Ms. Marvel.
Oh, okay.
I run her as a healer.
Okay,
and she has because of her specialty tree. Right. I have her healing ability 3 times, 3 charges. And she
I remember. Can it get up to 5 or something crazy like that?
I think it's just 3 as far as I can tell. Okay. And she has an exotic, or 2 of her exotics that she can get make it even better. And one of them makes it to where Healing Spirit gives a damage bonus and a crit chance bonus at the same time.
Wow.
So I'm going to try to build Ms. Marvel to be super high in defensive stat just so that she can get the support heroic cooldown. But also just as I was playing her, because the reason I'm focusing on her, or I was focusing on her earlier on, is because I was like, I need a healer. And if she has those 3 charges, the AI version will prioritize healing me when I'm desperate for health. And that's kind of how it works. It's not perfect, but she does pretty good. And as I was playing her, I realized, wow, this is possibly some of the most fluid combat in the entire game. Like her combat feels so good.
Her combat is it does feel so good.
Yeah.
She from the beta, as soon as you play her, it's like, okay, I get it. This makes sense. Her fist that she for her
high five.
Well, the high five is a great one, but I'm just thinking of the extent her like not melee range. That's the word I'm looking for. Her ranged ability is so fun and funny.
Do you have the one yet where you can grip them to death?
Yes,
that's my new favorite.
Yes, it's great.
But there's so much good in this game, and I know I come off as someone who blindly will defend it, which I get that I get why you'd have that impression from me, but I do agree that it's stupid that exotics can only be received from mega hives, and mega hives are really the only true in-game content right now. I think that's dumb, but this game does some things really well. And at the end of the day, I'm having a blast playing it. I love the way they did the characters. I think they all feel great and unique. Like there's just so much good in this game that I just want people to acknowledge the bad. But when you acknowledge the bad, you need to understand like, hey, this thing does some really good stuff. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I'm always looking for people to play it with because I just have so much fun playing it. I'm looking forward to you having some free time so that we can start power leveling you, but also that's just more excuse for me to play the game because I enjoy it that much. I seriously can't wait for Hawkeye. I'm so pumped. I really hope they don't screw him up. I don't think they will. But I've noticed that Iron Man is just, oh, come on, Minnie. Stop crying.
Minnie got into pills. She's crying.
Minnie, stop eating pills.
Minnie, stop it.
But Iron Man, he's still my main. And I enjoy his gameplay the best, I think, just because ranged combat. But walking away from him after playing the other characters as much as I've played them, it's very obvious that Iron Man is the least synergized amongst himself. Like he feels like he's being pulled in a lot of different directions.
Interesting.
Like he has the missiles, the lasers, and the repulsors, but his trees are asking him to pick one and stick with it, making him very one note or very scattered. And I completely disagree with that interpretation of Iron Man. Like he feels like Iron Man when you play him, but from comparing 130 Iron Man to a 130 Hulk's going to be better just all the time, unless if it's like dealing with turrets or something like that. So I do hope that they rework Iron Man. So at this point, I am anxiously waiting for Iron Man to release or for Iron Man to update or for Hawkeye to release, whichever comes first.
Whichever comes first. Well, hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this very different episode of Chortle Cast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, all that good stuff. We love to hear from you. If you're watching on Facebook, you can do the same. You're watching at Chortle Games on Facebook. You can like this video, share it with friends, all that fun stuff that you can do on Facebook. If you don't like Facebook or YouTube, we also do our live streams on Twitter, which is at Chortle Games, and then on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Chortle_games. So we're all over the place. We stream to all 4 of those locations throughout the week. So if you prefer to watch us during the live streams, you can do that. We're also on Apple Podcasts. If you want to listen to the podcast on audio version of the podcast, so you can keep up with us there as well. This is not the only thing we do throughout the week. The podcast airs every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time, but we do live streams throughout the rest of the week. Typically, we do a live stream on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So that's going to be the plan for this week. We'll probably be doing some sort of multiplayer game, probably Avengers on Thursday. Steven is going to have to take the solo stream on Friday. I'm sorry, I'm going to take the solo stream on Friday, and then Steven will be Saturday. Sorry, Steven, I just am throwing this at you. I forgot we had to normally
This is
talk
news
about
to
that.
me.
This is news to Steven. But anyway, we'll be doing that around 7 o'clock Central Standard Time is when we typically go live. So be sure to follow. And the best way to keep up with us is to either follow us on Twitter or to join our Discord. We normally post in the Discord when we're going live, kind of give you a chance to vote on what we're going to be playing and all that good stuff. So lots of good stuff. Let us know what you thought of this, of having gameplay behind us, of what we're doing, while we're doing the podcast. I thought it was fun.
I hope you enjoyed watching me farm and dig rocks, because that's basically what I've done.
Well, and I understand too that it's one of those things that like you're not like you're here for the conversation, but also it was kind of a fun twist for this one that we were playing a game. So it probably what I expect to be the comment is that this was you half-assed two things. This gameplay was not compelling to watch because you weren't really focusing on the gameplay. But I hope we were at least our normal stupid selves talking about everything. I know I got distracted a couple times I've been trying to get Yoshi to this island over here for the last hour, I think, because I need him to squirt juice on that thing right there. I don't know if you can even see this. Anyway, that's the thing that's happening. So anyway, just let us know what you thought of this. I don't know that we'll do it again, but if you just absolutely loved it and thought this was the funniest or greatest thing ever for the podcast, we might try and do it again. But anyway, that's going to be it for this week. Steven, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching and listening. See you next time.
Bye, guys.